stories that I thought were interesting. So XAI is Elon Musk's large language model, which he tried to sign a petition to try to get everybody else to hold up for 6 months so he could catch up. And so he bought a whole lot of GPUs, and he apparently has the most powerful AI cluster in the world with 200,000 graphics chips. And he's got 100,000 already, and he's adding another 100,000. And they network over Ethernet instead of over InfiniBand, but fiber optics is what you normally use for such a large cluster. But anyway, unfortunately, the largest, most powerful large language model in the world is being wasted on Elon Musk, who trains it on Twitter and is very proud of the fact that he doesn't make any distinction between lies and the truth. In fact, he personally pushes Russian propaganda, false medical information, false electoral information. So he's proud of the fact that his AI will not make any attempt to tell you the truth. It will tell you the stuff he found on Twitter, which he regards as the best way to find truth. He's, I think, the only person on earth that has that belief.
This is Grok, right?
That's Grok, yeah.
Grok.
Yeah, XAI, yeah. Yep. Anyway, it's a very powerful machine. It just seems to be used for nothing good. Anyway, so somebody commented on my videos. I had a video about VPNs, and he said, this is the best VPN, TwinGate. And they say it's better than a VPN. It gives you a zero trust model. I haven't tried it. Might be a fun thing to try. There's some kind of free version. They say it's better than a VPN. I don't really know why, but maybe that's true.
Before this, which one would you recommend?
Before this, the one I found that was easiest to set up, I can't remember the name right now. There's one I just like because it was easy to set up, a modern one. I think WireGuard. WireGuard is one that's easy to set up. There's a lot of, before that, the standard was OpenVPN, which works, but it's very difficult to configure. WireGuard is much easier to set up.
Because the most advertised, I mean, the one that is mostly what I mostly know, at least according to the people I know, is NordVPN.
Right, they're the commercial ones, NordVPN and
Lithuanian.
yeah, you have to pay for them.
No.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. So I mean, it amounts to the same thing because you have to pay for a cloud server and install your own thing here. But I mean, if you use one of the paid VPN services, they're all pretty unreliable. They're all pretty fishy. Many of them actually were malware distributors, and then they bought it. Because you're sending all your data to the VPN company, and you have to trust them. And most of them are pretty shady. They have history of doing shady things. So it would probably be, if you really care about privacy, it would be better to get your own server, and then you're not sending it to anybody else. But anyway, yep, there's a lot of them, and they do stop certain kinds of attacks. So I didn't know this. This is a month old. California passed a law requiring that AIs disclose what their training data is. And I think the primary concern here is to enforce copyright. Because they trained on all the data on the internet without paying for it. And so this does seem to particularly attach that. You have to say the sources or owners of the documents, how they used it, the number of data points used, the types of data points, whether they included any data protected by copyright, trademark, or patent, and so on. So it does seem like that's his main concern, is that people would have to expose how they trained their AI, and then they can try to figure out who they really ought to be paying royalties to. So that's interesting. That's going to take effect in a year or two. It's already passed in California. So it may have a significant effect on AI companies here. And so in Shanghai, they decided to crack down on Halloween, stopping people from having costumes. They took away some guy dressed as Buddha. I don't understand why that would be a problem. Now, apparently last year, people dressed up as political figures. And, in China, you're not allowed to make fun of the politicians. That's what Trump wants to do here. In Thailand, you're not allowed to criticize the king. And in China, they had their leader, his wife, was having people killed, and they couldn't talk about him directly, so they used Winnie the Pooh to have sort of a guy that looked kind of like him. So this is what happens. Anytime you outlaw speech, people have like slang to get around it. They have some way to indirectly refer to them. So apparently they were making fun of the politicians with their costumes, so they're cracking down on Halloween to stop people from having costumes that bother the government. That's the kind of thing people worry about. That's what the right wing doesn't like, the left wing policing language and trying to get you not to do things like that. That's the left-wing fascism there. Anyway, so Intel is just worse and worse. Intel had huge problems with their latest 2 generations of chips, and apparently even their newest chip is unstable. And people have found a way to measure it. All their chips seem to be defective. I think the last 3 generations of chips are seriously defective. So Intel is going broke, and they're very likely to get purchased by somebody. They just seem to have, they used to be huge in computing, but they've screwed up so badly, they seem to be going broke and they're going to get bought by somebody. Some company is already sniffing around trying to buy them. Yeah, Samsung and Apple would like to buy it. So it sounds like somebody needs to buy them. They seem to have lost the ability to make good chips, which is kind of the whole point. They need somebody else to take over the management, I guess. So I didn't know this. You can get a Starlink phone. Now, these are not commercially available in beta, which goes straight to Starlink, and therefore you have a good signal everywhere. And you can get internet through it, I think. So, and they're amazed at how good it is. They can put it in your pocket, and it goes right through your body without attenuating the signal much. And you can do it indoors, although he says he uses it at a desk that's near the window, so I guess it won't go through too many walls. But still, that would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, they started using it in Ukraine.
Yeah, well, in Ukraine, they have the kind we have here where you have to put a dish up.
Yeah.
But this is the point you can carry something around, like a phone, and have connection, which is pretty awesome. And so Tesla, I didn't know this. This is pretty amazing. This is what happens if you buy an electric vehicle, how rapidly it depreciates just after a few years. And this is hybrid or gas. They don't depreciate very fast at all. And so electric vehicles decline in value very quickly, which is surprising to me. I thought they were supposed to last longer and be cheaper to repair. But it turns out this is not really because of the quality of electric vehicles. They say this is entirely due to Tesla. Tesla overproduced, and then they couldn't move them, so they kept cutting the price to move the inventory. So now the same Tesla that sold for like $10,000 or $20,000 more is now selling cheaper, and that creates this downward spike. So, because Tesla is a pretty poorly managed company. They did have the first electric cars, and they made money from that, but they've, in many ways, they get managed badly, which is what you'd expect because Musk seems to be completely insane. Anyway, so this is the gun industry launched a secret product. They took information from everybody that bought guns and they sent it to political activists to pass laws, the NRA and all that, to pass all the laws that create this madness we live in now where there are more guns than people in America, because there's a huge lobby that promotes everybody having guns right and left, even though that makes no sense at all. And we have people getting shot all the time because there's guns all over the place. But they explain how it worked, and they did it by illegally sharing the data from gun purchasers with political action groups. So it's not too surprising, but it wasn't, I think, known in past. So Redditors, this is something, Google bought the privilege of training their AI on the Reddit content. And what they found was the restaurant review people would talk about a restaurant and then immediately would get flooded with influencers. They say the line will be hours long and there's hundreds of influencers there and they're just taking a picture of themselves with the food and then they leave and they don't even eat the food. And this is horrible. So to punish them, they all made a conspiracy to promote like chain stores for restaurant reviews on Reddit to try to fool the AI into recommending the chain stores instead, which hasn't had too much effect yet, but you can totally poison the search rankings if you try hard enough. For example, when there's a Republican about 15 years ago named Santorum, who was running for president or some Congress or something, and everybody decided to hate him, so they made a definition of the word Santorum that was something repulsive and sexual, and they got thousands of people to put it on Twitter and blogs everywhere, so that became the Google hit. If you asked what's a Santorum, it would tell you that. And that's the thing, I mean, all these AIs just give you information the way you'd find it on the internet. I see somebody in Twitch. Yeah, Perplexity has a grok option. I didn't know that. Anyway, I got to warn you on Twitch, there's not going to be much to do on Twitch because today we're doing lockpicking, so the people have to be physically here for it. But anyway, so that's what happened there. And that's the 10 minutes I wanted to spend on this, so I'm going to stop this recording.